town man. What them a treat policeman. How them a treat soldier man.
Stibbidim day, stibbidim day, stibbidim day. We in Global TV says certain kind of friend we no cape. And some informer friend we love lake. We in Global, bona fake friend and bona tape. We in Global, we not promote them, we not support them. Look at them on the cheek come here represent for. We in Global TV. Check it.
I truly believe our political system needs some fixing. Too much you hear about corrupt politicians and nothing happen. Too much you hear about politicians who take away poor people money and none of them reach in jail. And to the young people at home or wherever you are, and to all Jamaicans, I have one question for you. Take a look at your communities. Take a look at the sliding dollar. Take a look at the failing healthcare and ask yourselves, where is the progress? Where is the progress that this arrogant and disrespectful government keeps talking about? With this existing callous government, matters have gone from bad to worse.
This is Global TV election campaign coverage. This is Global TV election campaign coverage. This is Global TV election campaign coverage.
Everybody, good evening. We're going to tell you this evening that it is time to open the gateway for lawsuits against the government under the Disability Act. Good evening and welcome to Global Television. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening to those on the X, on Twitch, on Facebook, and on YouTube. Good evening and welcome to another evening of 2024 Jamaica Decide. Thank you all very much for joining us. Thanks to those on the live, those in the chat. And I want to say to all my globalists, welcome back, Head Teacher K, after her well-earned and deserved break. Welcome back, Head Teacher, from your well-refreshed break. Thank you very much for being back in the Globalist Corner. Good evening to everyone on the live. Good evening to everyone in the chat. Good evening to Anthony R. Good evening, Debbie Jervis. Patricia Matthews, good evening, and welcome. Good evening to Jason Kane. Sunshine, good evening. Head Teacher K, big up, Wagwan. Elaine Turner, good evening, and welcome. Good evening. Veteran, big up, Wagwan. Agency Driver 5, big up, good evening and welcome. Good evening. Who else? I don't want to miss anyone. Beat and Teach, Wagwan, good evening and welcome. Good evening to everyone. RJ Robinson, good evening and welcome. Good evening all, good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. A government that continues to violate every rules, even the ones that they set to bind themselves to. This government continues to break the rule. And this evening we're going to look at a break in government when the issue of serving those amongst us who have got challenges, but physical challenges. Whether you want to call it physical disability or physical challenges, those are the people we are going to look at this evening. And in the context of that, call everybody who you know with a disability. Call every parent you know with a disabled child across Jamaica. Because all of these people at the moment have the right to sue the government. Call Jamaica Disability Society. Let me look at the name properly again. Sorry. 1 second. The Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Call them. Call Jamaicans for Justice. Call the People's National Party. Brittany Lyon, good evening. Amazing Grace, good evening and welcome. Deborah Lynn White, good evening and welcome. Michelle Lewis, Wilson's God Gift, good evening and welcome. Call Isaac Buchanan because Isaac Buchanan is quite likely to pick up a lot of these lawsuits because it's time for you to sue the government to abide by set rules, which this government continue to break. Before we get into the waffle, I'm going to read an article for you from the Gleaner. I'm going to read the Gleaner editorial for you. And this is again with regards to Senator Lambeth Brown. You see the title, Unfriendly to the Disabled. Unfriendly to the disabled. When we make our way through the article, you will understand what Lambeth Brown is talking about and how it affects many of our children in the education system with physical disabilities, and how the government and the Ministry of Education continuously turn a blind eye to regulation that they must put in place and laws that they must adhere to. So if the government now adhere to the law, do you think the government would want to care about the rest of the public sector and all other commercial buildings across our country who is bound to follow this? But let's waffle through the Gleaner article first. That garden house remains a challenge, if not hostile environment for the physically disabled. As Lambeth Brown recently found out, is not so much a case for a new parliament building as a statement of priority. Jamaica, including the state, let me read it back again. Me here to the Gleaner, right? Because I'm right for people if you go dig and find out and twist the word them and fix them. But the first paragraph here, I just think it's horribly written. That garden house remains a challenging, if not hostile environment for the physically disabled, as Lambeth Brown recently found out. Is not so much a case for a new parliament building as a statement of the priority, Jamaica, including the state, place on accommodating or embracing people with disabilities. Public officials, hold on, these whole heap of glare around me, what for blind me eye. Public officials often say the right thing and set seemingly appropriate rules, which soon drift from their consciousness and are forgotten. In other words, declaration tend to be conflated with action, so become in policymakers' mind the end themselves. In this case, Parliament follow these dates now. These dates are very important for you to follow. If you have to write them down on your handbag, write them down. In this case, this is where it starts becoming more understandable for me, the dunce. In this case, Parliament in 2014 passed a Disability Act. 2014. Parliament passed a Disability Act that sets out obligations to ensure the society's fair treatment of people with disabilities, including their capacity to access buildings. It took nearly 8 years between the approval of that law and the crafting of the operating regulations, and therefore the timing of its promulgation in February 2022. Law in 2014. From 2014 to 2022, there's what is called a promulgation period, meaning that period, it must be widely known. Hold on, my page is behaving unresponsive. 1 second, just let me look over the studio. Okay. So from 2014 to 2022, that promulgation period is to make it widely known to all public bodies, all commercial buildings, that you must adhere to this legislation. You must, all of these regulatory, operational regulatories that must be put in place, you must be aware of all of them. We will make sure all of the operational regulations are in place by February 2022. Okay, let me continue reading. After that period, the legislation gave owners and operators of public and commercial buildings 2 years to make their premises accessible and usable to a person with disability. So now, after that promulgation period ended, Lorna Emery, good evening and welcome. Perspective Power, good evening and welcome. After that promulgation period ended in 2022, now they have, remember, we're talking about making life easier for people with disabilities. So after the promulgation period ended in 2022, all public and commercial buildings across the country have, from 2022 to this February 2024, to make sure all their building is retrofitted and adaptable for disabled people to have proper access, whether it be by wheelchair, it be by any sort of access that you must put in place to give people with disability easy access. You have from the 24th, from 2022 February to February this year to put all of those in place. Now let's continue reading. Hold on, me I'm thinking keep playing up. Okay. Mr. Brown, an opposition senator, recently suffered a serious illness. He returned to the legislature this month, days before the grace period ended for the retrofitting of public and commercial buildings. Section 49 of the Disability Act says the act binds the crown, means the state of Jamaica. The act binds the crown, the state of Jamaica. Every government building must follow this law. Every government building and entity must follow this law. In other words, the government is bound by its rules and regulation, and like private persons, can be held legally accountable for failing to adhere to its requirements. Citizens have the right of action and redress. So the law bound the state. So every government building across Jamaica from 2022 to this February must make sure there is proper access for disabled, whether it be a ramp, wheelchair access, lift, you name it. They must, because they have a promulgation period where they all knew that by 2022 February, I have to start, put in place systems to make sure my building is retrofitted. JamaicanTV.com, good evening. My building is retrofitted and adaptable for those with physical challenges. And that applies to all government building across the country. It applies to all commercial building across the country. As long as you're offering a service to the public, then you must make it accessible for people with disability. Let's continue reading. Mr. Brown told his colleague the difficulty he had as a temporarily physically disabled person ascending Garden House, single flight of stairs, even with the aid of his nurse. Lawmakers are the biggest promoter of law breaking when it comes to the Disability Act, he said. Lambert Brown is saying the Parliament is the biggest lawbreaker here. The government of Jamaica, Lambert Brown is saying, is the biggest lawbreaker here when it comes to law breaking of the Disability Act. The government is in violation of its own rules. Lambert Brown is saying they are the biggest breaker of this piece of legislation. But we know Safiwe government and legislators, it's a habit for them when it comes to law breaking. But this end of this month, the floodgate of lawsuit must go forward to the courts. Block the courts up, parents across Jamaica. Block the courts up with lawsuits. Or parents across Jamaica who have children with disabilities, come together and take a class action lawsuit against the government. The Jamaica Council for Persons with Disability should really take lead on this and make sure not just a review is tabled, a lawsuit is leveled against the government because they are in breach of a law that they have given themselves enough time, but not even our parliament building, that rule was paid attention to, or anything has been put in place. Let's continue reading. This, of course, should not be the case. The managers of Parliament were not taken by surprise and ought to have been keenly aware not only of their obligations, but of the symbolic value of the legislature being seen to be doing the right, by being seen to be doing the right, not least with respect to its own law. So what Lambert Brown is saying here, not even as much as to have respect, to be exemplars, to be an example to the rest of public bodies and commercial buildings across Jamaica. Not even that the government cannot do. But I wonder what the government excuse will be why all of this have been ignored. Do you remember last year, was it Merle Grove? When that young lady passed for Merle Grove, and if it wasn't because of the media fiasco and storm that was caused, she was going to lose her place because the disabled access wasn't there for her. And because of media publicity, they had to jump into action and retrofit the premises in order for her to have access. You remember that story? What was that young lady's name again? I don't remember the name, but a lot of you would remember that story because we know across our country, access for children with physical challenges. Access for children with physical challenges has been a major issue. Just the other day, a disabled school was closed because the government, Ministry of Education, after stealing a fraction of $1.7 trillion, the Ministry of Education couldn't afford to keep that school open. This is the things that continue to happen to us in our society. Okay, let's continue reading. Moreover, in February 2022, at the time the Disability Act was being promulgated, that means it has been widely, the idea has been widely put out there. The idea is being widely out there that this is the new system. And from now to the next 2 years, you must put these services, these accesses in place. Moreover, in February 2022, at the time the Disability Act was promulgated, Gordon House was in a tizzy over the disrepair of a wheelchair lift, whose battery had apparently run down. It may have been left unserviced for so long as to cause question as to whether it could be operable again. Meaning, say, it better you just go get a new modern thing than go try spend money to repair this and may end up spending more money, just like I was spending more money for fix Cornwall Regional Hospital, rather than if we did lick it down, this 21, how much billion them are asked for, we could have built a new hospital out of it. And as Mr. Brown reminded the Senate, there have been multiple promises over several years to install an internal lift at Garden House, which had not happened. Even when the government knew from 2014 that this must happen, the government knew from 2022 that it has a deadline until February this year to make sure the Parliament building is accessible to those with physical challenges. The government hasn't even bat an eyelid left or right. Not left or right. I don't know what is happening to my browser this evening. Everything just keep closing on me, but bear with me, please. Bear with me. Mr. Brown, ultimate takeaway from the absence of these facilities is that a new parliament building is required. It's time for the construction of a modern parliament that can meet the requirement of the Disability Act, he says. What example, what is wrong with my browser this evening? What example is Parliament setting for the rest of the nation when Parliament itself is in breach of its own laws that access must be available? And the word must, take note of that. There's a duty on the government to act. There's a duty on public officials to act. There's a duty on commercial building to act. Otherwise, you can sue them, take them to court, and seek a redress from the court. Anybody with disability have standing on this. I can tell you no, so I don't have standing because I don't live there and I don't experience the lack of access. What example is the parliament setting for the rest of the nation when the parliament is in breach of its own laws that access must be available to people with disabilities? A rhetorical question. What is logically rhetorical? What that is logically rhetorical question. The construction of a new parliament, the construction of a new parliament building may be although not as proposed at Heroes Circle, so as to deprive surrounding communities of the last significant bit of green space in downtown Kingston. But construction of a new parliament building, which will take years to complete and cost billions of dollars, does not obviate the government immediate obligation to the requirement of the Disability Act. This means the government, even the saying a parliament building is needed, that doesn't take away the responsibility that the government has at the moment to meet the need of persons with disability by making sure those buildings are retrofitted, whether it's a school, it's a hospital, churches are under a duty, every supermarket where you're going, a restaurant, all of these places are under a duty by law to make sure you have access into their building, whether you're walking with a stick or a wheelchair or a what do you call that other one again? What do you call that thing in front of you where you push on with a wheel? But anybody using anything to aid them to move around, to go up steps or whatever, they need to make sure right across the country, all our buildings are fitted to make sure everyone has access, not just of the so-called able-bodied ones. Have a fully and consistent operable wheelchair lift at Gardner House should not be beyond the capacity of the government. Neither does it require engineering genius to install a small elevator in the building. There are various technologies for those that are designed for use of small spaces. It can be done in days. In the meantime, the Labor and Social Security Minister, Charles Jr., one of the hereditary of politics, well, after Pernell Charles, thief of the whole of St. Thomas, the least Pernell Charles could have done is share the loot with him picnic them. But what Pernell Charles do is entrench two more thief bound. Two more thief Pernell Charles entrenched bound. Because we see Michelle Charles is as corrupt as in Papa, because we see she caused the destruction of the office of the political ombudsman. Well, let me read again. In the meantime, the Labor and Social Security Minister, Pernell Charles Jr., who has oversight of the disabilities policy, should commission a review. Then if you commission a review, then you get sued. Should commission a review of compliance with the law. If Parliament not comply with the law, what's the point of asking Parliament to do a review across the country to see who is complying with the law? Would it make sense for Parliament, who can abide by the law, to come ask we if we abide by it? They not done, sir, what? Some know say me done, so me know me done, so that's why I have no problem in owning up to my dunceness. In the meantime, something wrong with my browser this evening, it just keep closing. In the meantime, the Labor and Social Security Minister, Pernell Charles Jr., who has oversight for the disability policies, should commission a review of compliance with the law, starting with the government building. Further, the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disability should also produce and seek to have tabled in Parliament a review of compliance with the social provision of the Act. No compliance nonsense. No listen, Pernell Charles, to do a review when Pernell Charles himself is in breach of the law. He has oversight of it. Pernell Charles, that Parliament every day. Pernell Charles is a Parliament not take no step to even make Parliament building adaptable. What's the point of us asking Pernell Charles to waste our money to do review, commission review of people who are complying with the law? What sense would it make to us? Parliament is not complying with it. What we need to do is to start throwing lawsuits left, right, and center at the government. It is time for the parents across Jamaica, all of you who has a child that has disability and their school has not made it, has not made their building accessible to them, it's time for you to take a lawsuit against the government. Join up with other parents across the country who has children. Let me close this thing because it's really irritating. Hold on, people. My browser is just playing me about. Sorry. What is happening today? Sorry, people. Right. You can't ask the government who have already in breach of their own regulation to commission an inquiry. You're asking the lawbreaker to commission an inquiry to see Precious Allen, good evening and welcome. So that would be another Angela 48439. Good evening and welcome. That would be another whole waste of all public funds to go and commission a review as to who is abiding with the rules. No, start leveling lawsuit. Pamela McNeil, good evening and welcome. BCS Smith, good evening and welcome. It is the time to start leveling lawsuit against the government. They are in breach. They've had 2 years to make sure the buildings were fitted with proper access. They have a period of from 2014 to 2022. They have that whole 7-8 years period that it was widely known that these were coming in place, and you must make sure you put all the necessaries in place. You can start, you don't have to start your retrofitting 2022. You can start your retrofitting as soon as you know that you have to do it. But not even our parliament has taken the step to make sure, whether it be a lift access, a wheelchair access, is there, good evening and welcome, for people with physical disabilities. Barbara Allen, good evening and welcome. I'm going to come back to this, but let's talk about the Lions. Sandra Ellis, good evening and welcome. Let's talk about you, the people, who are going to the polls in the next 6 days. You realize there are butterfly on our vote for? Do you realize that you're voting for a butterfly? Both parties, you've watched, for those of you who've watched the debate on Thursday night and on Saturday night, you heard both Ramble Katramble said to you that our manifesto policies are already and will be out as soon, pretty soon. I may lie or them a lie. Did any of you heard that? Myrna Wagwan, cause how you do? How was your birthday yesterday evening? Did you have fun? Did you have a lot of fish and lobsters and all that? You, the people who will be going to the polls in the next 6 days, what are the things that you'll be voting on? Are you voting party line or are you voting policy? What have you heard? You have not had a local government election in what? From 2016. You have not had a local government election from 2016. The Prime Minister just the other day, and even during the debate, members of the Labour Party told you we had to have the general election in the middle of COVID because the government needed a mandate to make sure to carry us through the difficult period we were going through. But the government couldn't have a local election because of the pandemic affected the government having a local election, which the pandemic did not prevent the government having a general election, because the general election was beneficial to the government because the government saw that its popularity was very high in the polls and all of that. And what the government used that to do, what the Andrew Holness-led regime used that to do, is to target you, the people, albeit with a low majority of the populace vote. JP, good evening and welcome. Took the country by an undemocratic, illegitimate landslide, which has become tyranny for us. We have not had a local government election since 2016. You heard the Prime Minister in St. Thomas, and I'm going to play this for you while I go into the kitchen to get a Lucozade. You hear your Prime Minister in St. Thomas admitting that they are aware of what all your problems are, but their duty was to fix things for those at the top. And then, because we have fixed it, so nice that it is going to become sharing and caring with you. You who was promised from 2018, from 2015, a part of it. The Prime Minister says he has achieved it here. He has achieved it up here. Let me use a hand here. He has achieved it up here. And because the economy is so caring, it has got to start. But let me remind you of this while I get my drink, and then we'll come back and talk about what are you voting for? What have you heard that will make you vote?
You hear how my voice sound? It sound raspy. This voice is for the ladies.
Straight. My Prime Minister straight.
So all the man them just listen. But my voice is this way because I have been through the nooks and crannies of Jamaica. Reasoning with the people. And there's a lot of talking. Because there are a lot of issues facing Jamaicans in their community. This election is a local government election. It is not an election to determine who is the Prime Minister and your member of Parliament. It is an election to determine the representatives who have responsibilities for local, municipal, and infrastructure issues. So municipal issues like your garbage collection, and infrastructure issues like your local roads, your parish council roads, and your local water supply. That is what this election is about. Because of political desperation and opportunity, such man has tried to turn this into a national election. I don't know the wisdom in that political calculus, because what it has done is to go and stir up Labour Party answer. Because people realize that they have to come out and support their government. Their government is doing well, they understand that. At the national level, they see the change that has happened, the transformation that has happened. The frustration is not at the national level. The frustration, the pain points, is at the local level. The road, your water, your garbage collection, your interaction and interface with the transport system, and your interaction and interface with other public services. That is where the frustration is. So I've spent the last 8 years with the team making sure that we have a strong economy. Now, we're going to make sure that the economy is a caring economy, an economy that deals with the issues that affect you.
Deal with the issues that affect you. Both parties said Thursday night and Saturday night that their manifesto policies are ready and will be out soon. Did anyone hear it? Or am I one here? Sharon Powell, good evening and welcome. How are you? Natalia Freeman, how are you? Good evening and welcome. Noreen Dennison, good evening and welcome. JP, good evening and welcome. Una did hear, or me one here, when them said their manifesto already. Their manifesto already. And it will be out soon. We are 6 days away from the poll. Is this not a hijack? Is this not a hijack? They're out there debating. They're out there smiling and grinning like pressure cats. They're out there, if you not say Anvar, I wonder if Anvar's batty, because Anvar, the way how Anvar are going like skettle all over the place. I don't know what Anvar's are trying to prove, but Lisa Hanna, let me tell you something. If you move out of politics, make it case and go on. Because this might be one of your very problem, Lisa Hanna, is the picture. The picture everywhere you go, Lisa Hanna, is a picture opportunity. We know say you're pretty, we know say you're beautiful and elegant. We know all of that about you, Lisa. We have enough of the picture now. So if you are gone, make case and go on so we can get somebody to do the work on top the whole heap of picture. Enough of the nonsense with the whole on now. Prof. Gorgeous lady, good evening and welcome. Because everything we notice for Lisa Hanna is a photo up. If you are gone, make case and go on. Or if you're not gone, or if you're not going, Lisa Hanna, you come off of the muggle stage a long time now. You come off of the muggle stage a long time now. Stop the hope of optics, Lisa. Jump over. Me not frightened for it. Me don't know about the rest of them down there. But me not frightened for it. Enough of that now. Move on. If you are gone, you're gone in peace. And if you are tan, you turn and do something and stop the hope of picture going in. It'll get on my nerve. You're coming like a the Gleaner now. Where every time you're looking at the Gleaner, there's a wedding picture in there. Every time you look on Lisa Hanna page and you think you're going to read something worthwhile, yeah, stay and all start to jump over wall. You soon start jump over precipice too. Enough of it. There's work to do. I hate the country so damn mash up. Nobody like Lisa Hanna and Christoph Dan. Everywhere you see Lisa Hanna and Christoph Dan, it's picture taking. For what? There's work to do. Get on with it. Bunch of lazy so-and-sos. Get on with it. Enough of it, the picture taking. But what will you be voting for when you go to the polls? Because they have not, after 7-8 years of the Prime Minister admitting to you that we know what your frustrations are, but we chose to ignore them because the priority was up here. And they are coming to you now for you to give them another 4 years of your local government. And to date, not even a word of hope, not even a budget. And these guguzela blowing, rum drinking, chicken back and rice eating people. Because I get chicken back and rice because of patty and sky juice. Because cost of living high. And politician and not anti. Because remember, Nigel talk about Nigel Clark talk about fiscal prudence and all of them something. So rather than the chicken back and rice, now we get patty and bag juice. I don't know vote for. I don't know run round. A chop off on the foot and a kill on the children and have not heard one jota policy to vote and keep one big dance last night and broke out and wine and let me say to no dunce rasta. If anybody know me know some have problem with dunce rastas. Uno dunce rasta. Call the rasta them across Jamaica for me. Uno entertainers. Uno dunce rasta. Uno rasta. We just have it like a style like me. Eh? Uno dunce rasta. We have it like a style like me. Because it no mean nothing. For uno. A style like me just love it and me use it. And me don't want to spend money with the barber because me go can't have to do it when me ready. Me can't don't do nothing to it. Uno dunce rasta. The philosophy of Rastafarianism and Pan-Africanism. How could uno dunce butu in modern day when you can't take up on a phone and read anything? How come uno dunce rasta support capitalism? Dunce butus. You would have think the philosophy of Rastafarianism would have been a more socialism, social democracy, communism, or whatever. Uno dunce don't know nothing butu. Frightened for white people, butu. Frightened for colorism, butu rasta boys. How me soon I go on stage with Anvas last night. Frightened for massa picking a rasta boys at Jamaica. Calling themselves entertainers. Rum Jenkins sell out rasta boys. Pork nyamming rasta boys. Gunny and pork because none of them don't understand what Pan-Africanism and social democracy mean. Careless Rasta boys, the whole on across the entertainment industry. Sell out Rasta boys. Tight jeans, Rasta boys. Pants drop down a batty show boxers, dirty Rasta boys at Jamaica. And uno me talk, uno in the entertainment industry. Careless boys. You would be surprised to see how Rastafarians, those who call themselves, is promoting capitalism. Capitalism and slaveryism upon the people of Jamaica. Careless Rasta boy. Who else may you talk about again? But let's go over to Chris Tufton and the Boogiagarism. Somebody help me. Because I know dunceness can take me over some of the time. And sometimes, you see, dunceness is a balance to brightness. So you can't be bright all the time. You have to dunce sometime to balance the brightness. But them dunce rasta boy, people must call them out. People must call out them pork nyamming dread. People must call out those pork nyamming rasta boy at Jamaica where say them are entertainer. Sokar David, good evening and welcome. People must call out them entertainer, map head, dirty map head entertainer boy. Where we kind of spread. What if we play again, beat and teach? Where we can spread capitalism and push up capitalism upon the people of Jamaica. And then I want to call on ourselves Rastafarianism and Pan-Africanism. We're not done some backwards like the Labour right there. We're not done some backwards like Anvaz and Darrell Vaz and Nesta Morgan and Dean Jones and Andrew Holness. Dunce. Dunce. Calling yourself Rastafarian. And then on promote capitalism. And then on go burn Babylon. Careless boy. Careless boy, I go burn Babylon. But careless boy wrap up past stage with Babylon picnic them. And I promote Babylonianism. Jamaican people, them pork nyamming maphead boys. Calling themselves Rasta. Call on yourself Rasta. But Jamaican people, Anthony R, how are you? Good evening and well. Me not even talk about the Terry Long. Terry Long poke near me and I wouldn't. Don't let me start on Orlando Terry Long and Jermaine Bailey murder this evening. So help me God. Don't start on them. Me talk about the poke near me and Rasta boy them in the music industry. The dirty head poke near me boy them in the entertainment industry. Them one them I talk about this evening. The one them will hold mic at them mouth with them pants waist down at them knee. Yes, them dirty Rasta boy. We promote capitalism from the people of Jamaica. Those careless ones. Those house slaves, Rastas. Those are the ones that I'm speaking of. Me not talk about people like me and Orlando Terry Long where we are for just style and fashion. Me and Orlando Terry Long just love it. Me never cue the Anvars something beat and teach because me would have want to show people how the carelessness are broke out and a gone. Oops, official, good evening and welcome. Me would have want to show people how the carelessness are gone, but because of the music copyright, me can't use it, you see. But a hoof a page it depend again. It depend the page, man, and I can't go look upon it. How the renter dread boy and how Anna broke out and go on like say Darrell now have hope a woman with him. Hope a woman with her. I mean, I know what kind of ownership. She did a show in a crowd. The whole of them I obtain fiscal, the whole of them boy there, the whole of them Rasta boy there, where you see a part of the Labour Party, the bad mind, evil, wicked Sizzler. I don't think Sizzler Rasta only one know the truth about the little boy, the bad mind and evil and corrupt and nasty, bumbleclad sister gonna beg on a pardon. You don't know who Sizzler is. He's what our cuss bad word tonight. Rodney Reed, good evening. Don't make me start on Sizzler. Because I must think I'll Sizzler them as somebody. Who for them dirty boy they want to say wrap up in a cloth. And wrap up cloth round them head. These assholes are no better than the pastor them. Want to sit in the frack and go and where all of the children around church back abuse them. Rasta boy them a holy for them Rasta boy you want to see. A cover up behind here. Just like the pastor behind the cloth there. So don't make me start on the dirty Sizzler this evening. Don't make me start on that Labour blow. Don't make me start on Sizzler this evening because it's another piece of that. Hey, Sizzler. But let's go to Dr. Tufton. All right, on a no semi-dance. When we hear about the children and adolescents hospital in Western Jamaica, did we not hear that it was a gift from China? Tell me if I'm confused or a so with it here. Was it a gift from China or was it a partnership between the Chinese state and the state of Jamaica in constructing that hospital? Correct me, because I remember me dunce. Because I've always heard. Listen head teacher, okay. Sizzler is a piece of it. You would have to meet me out the door because Sizzler. Hey, that look a piece of YT. A YT want to see with a map on. One of the things Sizzler somebody. Me say if one of the things Sizzler somebody is one of the most bad mind piece of shit you can think of. I walk on with silent at Jamaica. One of the most evil like a bad mind boy. No, don't make me start on the look of junk credit this evening, you know. Don't let me start on the junk credit because I would have to go to one caliber and bomber cloth cut on him. I beg on a pardon this evening. If I talk to Sizzler, I would have to go to one caliber and cut on him. Because them dogs that in a Jamaica have influence and is misleading the people, and it hurt me heart. It hurt me heart to sit and listen to some of them Rasta boy, because people listen to them. And what people don't know is a lot of these Rasta junk crop is as dangerous as the pastor. Because a lot of the Rasta junker them work for the slave master Jamaica people. If you know that, Vernon Adams, good evening and welcome. A lot of these Rasta junker work for the slave master. A lot of these Rasta junker take a contract with the slave master to keep you asleep. There's a keep the sleep contract with a lot of these drunker want to see out there, whether them a Rasta or them a pastor. There's a keep the sleep contract. Whether them an entertainer, it's a keep the sleep contract. And if you wake up to the nonsense, this is why we are going into a political, into an election. 6 days from an election and no policy because them know say the whole we are damn fool. It's only because we are damn fool why we are going to go to the poll and vote for nothing. That hurts me. It hurts to see how stupid we are in 2024. Holy Paddy Rasta boy, them a pedophile for true. Countless of them left the people, them young girl Rasta man. Left the school girl, them Rasta boys. Tired down. Tired down on influence. Want to keep using to mislead and misguide the people and to use them for an old commercial game. Tired down. You, the people of Jamaica, you are going to vote for thin air. You're not even going to vote for promises, because that's what the manifesto would be. The promises. And not even that you're not getting this time. What a disgrace we have become. The most rebellious in the Western Hemisphere when it comes to justice, fairness, human rights, rule of law, law and order. We were the bastion of that which stand up for justice, fairness, human rights, and fair treatment for all. Look at what we've become, the backward buttus of society. Where politicians can wheel around on them finger like a key ring. Politicians can wheel around on them finger like a key ring, and we just run up under them to get wheeled around more and more. 100 years from now, Flo M, good evening and welcome. 100 years from now, that generation will look at our generation from 1965 to 2065 as the biggest failure since slavery. The generations from 1965 after the Civil Rights Movement, the generation after the Civil Rights Movement up until 2065 will be the biggest failure in Black liberation since slavery. Because in the information and education age, we have become so backwards that we are going to the polls without even promises of what they want to or will do or tell us that they will do for us. Do you see the problems we're in as a country when we only vote because of party line? It's nothing to do with what we want. So we're not complaining for. Where Jamaica people are complaining for about hard life, cost of living, we're not complaining for. We don't want better. We don't want better. So what we are complaining for? People treat you the way you want to be treated. You see, if you want to be treated careless, it is exactly how people is going to treat you, because carelessness are going written all over your face. If you want to be treated careless, carelessness is going to be written all over your face. So once anybody approach you, they are going to see the big bold print, carelessness. And it's exactly the treatment that will pursue after that. It is for that very reason why you are going to the polls and you've been hijacked. I've never seen this before. I've never seen a political campaign in full swing, an election campaign in full swing with not a word of policy from the government or the opposition. This is one of the most scandalous election campaigns of what is called the independent plantation. It is one of the most scandalous election campaigns where both parties has run out of ideas. Because if it not be that they've run out of ideas, somebody must would come tell with something. When you come at the galang in one night with the muffle and the mumbo jumbo and the wasting of current to the whole we can waste current for 2 nights. The Jamaica Debating Society waste current for 2 nights. And the nation hasn't had a takeaway, not one takeaway, to have a conversation on to say, Labour promised this, but they never do it, and PMP said them are going to do this. And may trust PMP for it because Labour promised it and never do it. Remember, Labour not tell us them are going to do nothing there, so, and PMP said them are going to do over there, so none of nothing from both. None of nothing from both. So none of the 2 parties have no respect for you. Neither People's National Party or the Jamaica Labour Party. The People's National Party on this issue of manifesto should be robust. We have a government that denies local government election 3 times and had to be forced into a corner to do it. The People's National Party have an 8-year period of government, central and local government failure. That the People's National Party should have had their designed manifesto policy as a counter proposal for all the failure of this government. Not one word. I would want people to ease up on Mark Golden. So Mark Golden local government is as lazy Mark Golden central government. Really cross it. With the widespread war across the People's National Party, can really sort it. Is the stage set? Is it the stage set for Jamaica for a showdown to dictatorship? Could this be our last election? If Mark Golden doesn't cross the local government ballot, and if Mark Golden doesn't cross next year the central government ballot, is this the stage set for full-blown dictatorship in our country? Given that the Prime Minister is fastly rewriting our constitution and wants to become a republic, a government that doesn't adhere to its law, a government that violates the constitution, violates the legislative process, violates that which holds Parliament and public bodies to account. You think if this government wins the next term of election, our democracy is safe? Ask yourself that question when you go to the poll. Whilst you have no manifesto policy from either the government or the opposition, ask yourself this: is my democracy safe? If I would, I can't even depend on TikTok. Two, because then say me know so me can go out on a limp on China at any time, because the state of Jamaica has become synonymous with the state of China now. The state of Jamaica and the state of China look like everything they do hand in hand. But the Western hospital people, wanna catch me up again. Was it a gift or was it a partnership? The Western Children and Adolescents Hospital, was it a gift from China or is it a partnership between the state of China and the state of Jamaica? Because me here say a gift I mean, they always think say a gift. Oh, partnership, BCA Summit says. So which hospital was the gift from China? Did we not have a gift hospital from China? But anyway, let me read the little snippet, yeah, of this. Come over here, so now. Work continues on Western Children and Adolescents Hospital. When I see the thief them there, the thief and the gunman. When I see the two of them, the thief and the gunman side by side. Could make it up right in our parliament. Two gangsters. One's a scammer and one's a gunman. See them? Them face up big. Sure no. One's a scammer. Come fix on a face. One's a scammer. And one is a gunman. You see them? One is a scammer. The other is a gunman. You see them face? One is a scammer. The other is a gunman. The scammer, we know 1.7 trillion is missing that he cannot give account for. The gunman, we know. Look like them are obey me because all of my connectivity, them just gonna type in and tell me if my network keep going in and out because everything keep closing and reopening on my side. The gunman, we know, bring in a container of AK-47 and distribute in a flanker and send busload of guns across the country. This same gunman that tells us that his intelligence says his intelligence says 200 guns per month are coming in the country. So we see find 64 this month. So Dr. Chang, we want the other 130 odd. We want the other 136 or so. Because we say you find 64. So we want the other 130 odd for this month. And we want the 200 for January. Because of few intelligence. So. But let me read what is Bangarang say. And then people just take me for duns. The construction of Western Children and Adolescents Hospital in Montego Bay, St. James, will continue during the new financial year from an allocation of more than 800 million. I don't know if that's 800 million Jamaican dollars or 800 million US dollars because them fit tell we which one them attack. Details of the project are outlined in 2024-2025 estimated expenditure tabled in the House of Representatives on the 15th of February by the thief in Brockshop lift shot scammer Nigel. We take with money after make him friend them rob up investors' money. Him take our money and pay back and still want to tell we say no, I know that we're not sinner here. The government is building a 220-bed facility on the compound of the Cornwall Regional Hospital. Another failure. If Cornwall Regional Hospital fails so horrible, how is it that Kingston Spanish Town Hospital will not fail? And why is it that this child and adolescent hospital won't be a massive failure of over budgeting. The government is building a 220-bed facility on the compound of Cornwall Regional Hospital to provide medical services for children and adolescents up to age 18 across Western Jamaica. Building work up to the end of 2023, including site clearance and widening of roads leading to construction site, utility relocation and reconnection, and security services have been completed. Phase 1 and 2 parking facilities have been completed, and structural work for the main building and the nurses' residence have been completed. Among the targets for the upcoming financial year are completion of structural work for the morgue and underwater tanks, completion for all external work and procurement of furnitures, installment of equipment in the main building and nurses' residence. The Western Children Adolescents Hospital will be the first of its kind in English-speaking Caribbean. It is being funded by the government of Jamaica and the People's Republic of China. But me I go leave it there, so. China build hospital, road, China get land, China get wharf. What more China go get? China soon get wheat too. Hey, the people of Republic owns the people of Jamaica. Bangaranga come in. Bangaranga come because the Americans not having it. The Americans are not having it. But before I go tonight, Portland, I want to say to you all, get rid of old master picking them and them set a dunce Rasta boy there, which is aligned to them. Them Rasta boy there, where white people can dangle anything in front of them face, rent a dread white boys. Wanna hide behind on a Rastafarian cloak, on a wrap up head pork eating, sleep with children, Rasta boys. One day I'm going to do a collab and cut. I'm going to do a collab and cut on a Rasta boy one day. But this is where Global TV ends the rant this evening. Come on, come back for another rant tonight because me come back come rant about the manifesto tonight. Let's have a round table talk tonight about manifesto. Shall we? Do you think we should do that? Sue McDuffie, good evening and welcome. Do you think we should have a round table talk this evening? China soon get all way as well, Brittany Lion. You stay there. All Sata Malaki. Do you think we should have a round table talk this evening about policies, about manifesto, about the lacking of the last 8 years in local government and what we want? Do you want us to have our manifesto debate, what we want from them this evening? Because them now have no intention 6 days before we show up with galang into them. But tell we what we forget to them for. Let's come back and have a round table talk this evening. Call anybody from the PNP and the JLP that you know and say, come and let's have a round table talk. Come and tell us what your policies are. Whisper in our ears and make we go spread it back. Geneva, good evening and welcome. Whisper in our ears and make we go spread it back because none of None of don't hold with the respect after 8 years. Even though the Prime Minister is telling us, even though the Prime Minister is telling us, I'm aware of what your problems are. I know what your frustrations are, but to hell with you and your scandals.
You hear how my voice sound? It sound raspy. This voice is for the ladies.
Straight. Hey, my Prime Minister, straight.
So all the man them just listen. But my voice is this way because I have been through the nooks and crannies of Jamaica. Reasoning with the people. And there's a lot of talking. Because there are a lot of issues facing Jamaicans in their community. This election is a local government election. It is not an election to determine who is the Prime Minister and your member of Parliament. It is an election to determine the representatives who have responsibilities for local, municipal, and infrastructure issues. So municipal issues like your garbage collection and infrastructure issues like your local roads, your parish council roads, and your local water supply. That is what this election is about. Because of political desperation and opportunism, such man has tried to turn this into a national election. I don't know the wisdom in that political calculus, because what it has done is to go and stir up Labour Party answers. Because people realize that they have to come out and support their government. Their government is doing well, they understand that. At the national level, they see the change that has happened, the transformation that has happened. The frustration is not at the national level. The frustration, the pain points, is at the local level. The road, your water, your garbage collection, your interaction and interface with the transport system, and your interaction and interface with other public services. That is where the frustration is. So I've spent the last 8 years with the team making sure that we have a strong economy. Now, we're going to make sure that the economy is a clearing economy. An economy that deals with the issues that affect you.
Screen record this. Tell the bowcat sizzler and the rest of drop pants below them bum. Dirty Rasta boy, the dirty pork name in dread them, will align themselves to capitalism, that we are not going to stay over here and allow them to fool the people. This is where Global TV ends it this evening. Come back at 11 o'clock, 6 o'clock Jamaica time, for a roundtable rant when we will rant about failed government policies and going into an election without manifesto. How fool are we? Good evening.